Hi, my name is Marc from jazzguitarlessons.net and you're listening to Album Deep Dives. In this episode, we will discuss the debut album of the jazz guitar legend Grant Green, and that's Grant's first stand. It was released in 1961 under the Blue Note Records label. Welcome to Jazz Guitar Lessons, where we help guitarists learn jazz faster, express themselves more fluently, and have fun along the way. My name is Marc, and if you're looking to learn jazz, form better practice habits, and especially if you enjoy a French accent, make sure to subscribe. Grant is such an iconic character in jazz guitar history, and he developed his career at the same time as Wes Montgomery and George Benson, so building a name for yourself together with these giants is no small feat. Grant Green was born in St. Louis, Missouri on June 6, 1935. He taught himself to play guitar, and by the age of 13, he was already a professional guitarist. One of Grant's biggest influences was the electric guitar pioneer Charlie Christian, and like him, he was enamored with the idea of sounding like a horn on the guitar. Grant Green always said that his main influence was Charlie Parker, and you can certainly tell because of his preference for single note line playing and his mastery over the bebop language. Grant's big break came in 1959 when saxophonist Lou Donaldson first heard him play in St. Louis, and he was immediately struck by his playing, so much so that a year later he would get him a spot to audition for Blue Note Records in New York City, which was at the time the prime record label for jazz. Grant was immediately hired after his audition as a staff guitarist and recorded his first record with the label in 1961, which was Lou Donaldson, Hear This. And only 5 days after this recording, he would record the album that we'll be discussing here today. That's a debut, Grant's First Stand. Between 1960 and 1972, Grant Green recorded 30 albums, and just from 1960 to 1956, he appeared in 68 Blue Note recordings, being one of, if not the most, prolific musicians of the Blue Note label. In spite of this, he never received fair compensation or recognition for his work, and this professional disappointment would always haunt him. Grant Green also struggled greatly with drugs, using heroin since his teenage years, and abusing other substances during his life. This led to a tumultuous personal life and to a serious health decline around the mid-70s. He recorded his last album, Easy, in 1978. That autumn, he had a minor stroke that left him temporarily paralyzed on the left side. That's not too great for guitarists, right? And after this, the doctors recommended a triple bypass surgery to fix a problem with a blood clot that was found near his heart. He refused the surgery and instead drove to a gig in California. Right after his return, he died of a heart attack on January 31st, 1979. He was only 43. 'For the album Grant's First Stand, Green decided to record with an organ trio, which is a great way to feature the guitar, right? Especially because of Grant's single note line playing style. In the organ trio format, there's no bass, and the organ takes the role as both the bass player and the main comping instrument to play chords in the band. Apart from this, the timbre and range of the typical organ comping style leaves a lot of room for the guitar to take the lead melodic role in the group. The band on this album is comprised of Babyface Willett on organ and Ben Dixon on drums. And of course, Grant Green on guitar, who was only 25 years old when he recorded this album. It's amazing. So the album is beautifully bluesy and it showcases Grant's strengths within the jazz idiom. The opening track, Miss Anne's Tempo, is an original composition by Grant Green named after his wife. It's a frisky blues that swings hard. Babyface on the organ does a fantastic job of punctuating Grant's playing of the head with short chord shots, and his pedal bassline keeps the tempo swinging together with Dixon's drumming. Grant takes the first solo, and it showcases his characteristic blues style. Most of the choruses are structured in a similar way, with him playing minor and major pentatonic lines for the first six to eight bars, and then adding Charlie Bird's bebop vocabulary for the last 4 or 6 bars of each of the blues choruses. In the short excerpt we're about to listen to, we can clearly hear this. And the shift between these two vocabularies sounds very organic. We can clearly hear Green's roots in the blues and then his deep knowledge of Charlie Parker or Bird's playing. Let's listen. For the next track, we have the famous song Lullaby of the Leaves. The tempo drops and Grant shows a different face to his playing. As we will continue to hear throughout this album, his style has always a strong bluesy taste, but he combines it with other colors depending on the feeling he wants to evoke. So this tune features a much more mellow character, and in between Grant's bluesy melodies and strings of bebop lines, we can hear his use of rhythmic motifs. He uses very simple phrases to great effect, and he keeps coming back to some of them throughout this entire solo. At 1:48, so 1 minute and 48 seconds on the record, on this track, we can appreciate a clear example of this. He keeps ending his phrases with 2/8 notes at the same pitch. Note also how he doesn't end his phrases in the same beats. He keeps changing his starting and ending points so that the simple rhythmic motifs creates momentum and interest. It's a great way to bring something more cohesive to his solos, especially because later on he comes back to this motif and develops it a bit further. So let's listen. To change it up a bit, the fourth track on the album is a minor blues titled Baby's Minor Lope, written by Babyface Willett on organ. As we know, the minor tonality in jazz is sort of a different beast, and Grant shows his mastery of both the bebop minor language as well as the minor blues language. During his solo, we can hear him masterfully intertwine different colors of the minor realm. He plays Dorian, then plays melodic minor, then minor blues scale, Aeolian, that's natural minor, with different applications of bebop passing tones and enclosures. A particularly interesting section of this solo comes at the 5 minutes 45 second mark. We can listen to Grant building a motif based on the perfect fifth interval, then move on to play a tasteful and refreshing phrase in F Dorian. To finish that chorus, he makes a use of arpeggios and chromatic passing tones to transition into elegant bluesy lines, based on the C minor blues scales, of course, and that's for the last chorus of his solo. Let's listen. The next thing I want to point out might seem like a minor detail, but it really is one of the most difficult things to master as a musician. We've always heard rhythm is to be referred as the most important thing in music. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. And whether or not you believe that to be true, we can all agree that having a strong time feel makes a huge difference in popular music. But what exactly is, having a strong time? Well, I would say that having a strong time is to be sensible enough to identify and perform minuscule changes in the rhythmic positions of the notes we're playing. And human time is not rigid like a metronome. And music being a human endeavor, it has slight imperfections or irregularities in rhythm that make a groove sit right. So during Grant Green's trio performance of "Tain't Nobody's Business If I Do," that's the next track on the record, we can hear a clear example of how much control Grant Green has over his time feel. On this tune, the melody is played by the organ, and Grant comps, so he's playing chords, behind the melody with quarter notes. But instead of playing these quarter notes right on the beat, Grant is playing them slightly ahead. This creates so much forward motion and completely changes the feel of the groove. It contrasts perfectly with the organ's soulful and laid-back interpretation of the melody, and it fills the tune with anticipations. This imperfection, quote-unquote, makes the groove sit right. And this kind of detail makes a difference between a good musician and a great one. Let's listen. To end this album on a high note, we have Grant Green's original "A Wee Bit O' Green." As expected, it's a blues, but the tempo this time is much slower than the rest of the album. It has such a relaxed and strong swing feel, and Green's rhythmic control is evident again, but this time by playing his solo lines behind the beat instead of, comping in quarter notes ahead of the beat. His solo features Green's signature combination of fluent blues language and using the major and minor pentatonic scales with his effortless playing of bebop lines. It's a real joy to listen to him solo over slow swing tempos. As mentioned earlier, Grant Green has an extensive collection of recordings, both as a leader and as a sideman. Among his most renowned albums, we have Idle Moments in 1965, Green Street in 1961, Matador in 1979, and Solid in 1979. As a side note, it is crazy to realize that none of these albums were well known until maybe the 90s, when, thanks to rap and hip-hop artists such as Us Three, that sampled Grant's playing for some tracks, so the music of Grant Green and his contributions to jazz were finally widely recognized. Thank you for listening to this episode of Album Deep Dives. I'm Marc from JazzGuitarLessons.net, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Grant Green has influenced countless jazz guitar players, whether it is his strong and clear tone, or his use of Charlie Parker's bebop language, or his deep blues roots. And I hope that this deep dive into his work served as a good gateway into Grant Green's contributions to jazz guitar.